You have someone walk off the street and confess to killing 8 people, which, you don't hear that very often. I think the biggest shock was probably the fact that Wettlaufer was a healthcare worker. She was the nurse who was responsible for their loved ones.
People wanted to believe that Wettlaufer must have been an angel of mercy. They wanted to think that, when in fact the information that we had was that wasn't the case at all. Even we didn't want to believe so much that someone could be so evil to do this.
She picked the victims, 75 years of age and older. That made it difficult for us to ever identify if she hadn't confessed.
For whoever might watch this in the future, we didn't force you to come with us. We didn't, shove you in the car and off we went kind of thing. You did it on your own free will, and you accepted it on your own decision making. Is that correct?
Yep. I had enough, and you even let me try to give money to the homeless people. So
there you go. I remember all of that.
Here's a lady, a nurse, that if walking down the street, you would think average person, and not have any idea what she's done. Each homicide or each investigation has its own difference to it, but with a serial killer, you're looking at probably more investigating over a period of time. So you're trying to collect evidence that happened maybe a month ago, maybe a year ago, maybe 10, 20 years ago. With Wettlaufer, she came to the police and provided her confession, killing 8 people and attempting to kill 4 others, and then 2 others on top of that.
It's been a while because I've been stewing about, do I give the names of the people that I killed?
They occurred between 2007 and 2014. The instance reported to us in 2016, so we're already 2 years behind the last homicide. Most homicides that you investigate, you have an autopsy, cause of death, because it turns out 6 of the 8 victims have been cremated. So you're kind of working backwards from there because you don't have any evidence, you just have her confession, so then you have to go out and get documentations, records from the facilities that were named in her confession, and then painstakingly go through all the records and try to identify, marry up the information she gave to the information in the records. With her being a healthcare professional, she's not going to note that she injected these victims with insulin because she's trying to get away with it. Insulin is very hard to detect, determine whether or not there's foul play involved or it's just natural death. She was in charge. She was the charge nurse in most evenings or times that it happened. So there's nobody looking over her shoulder to see what she was doing. The family, in their mind, believes that their loved one has passed away of natural causes, and they've been buried, and they've moved on with their life. All of a sudden, they're getting a knock on the door from police.
In the Wettlaufer case, the officers involved, many of them live and work in the same community, so they're invested in it. They care not just about the investigation, but about the people involved, and we had to go break the news to the family members. We were partnered up from the investigative standpoint. We were partnered up with another investigator, so 2 of us went out. Sometimes when you meet people, you're not going to have rapport, and hopefully your partner will be able to jump in and take over, and so we get used to kind of bouncing off each other that way. In this case, we went out and we had a script prepared for each of us of basic information that we were going to share, just to let them know that there was an open investigation and investigators would then follow up with the family within a short time afterwards.
This investigation at the time was in the early stages, and so we explained to them basically that, your loved one may have died as a result of foul play. We're looking into the circumstances behind it, And for the time being, we would request if you could keep this information to yourselves, because, we were trying to verify the information.
I would like to say that, breaking bad news to people gets easier over time, but it doesn't really. And in this case, this was very unusual for us and unusual for the families. So there was a lot of disbelief, shock from the family members. They didn't want to think that someone could have intentionally harmed their loved one.
I think it's very difficult. We're human too. We get the information. A lot of the officers that first approach the victims' families, the families make a connection with that officer.
You don't walk away from one of these unchanged. We all have family, we all have children, we all have parents, or did have at some point. And it would be easy to put yourself in the shoes of these people, of what they've experienced and what they're feeling and going through.
You go out there, you let them know that you're working this case for their loved one, and hopefully when you get that conviction in court, then you have the time afterwards with the family. I can say that I've shed quite a few tears with family members over the verdict. And you tell the family, it doesn't give you closure. It might close a chapter of this part of your life, but full closure, not usually, because, someone very important, dear to them, is gone. So, in the end, that's what we're there for. We're there for the victims and their families.
I do think about several cases. I don't know if any cases necessarily haunt me, but I have one particular case which I think about a lot.
The one in particular is the Donna Alcock case in London. That was back in 1983. A young girl, we don't know all the circumstances, but she was found near Fanshawe Dam. Obviously, she was a victim of homicide. That case has been through probably 7 or 8 different detective inspectors.
You have your ideas, your theories as to how it happened, who did it, but you just don't have the evidence to bring any charges forward.
The murder of Micheline Saint-Amour, it happened in 1980. I inherited the case from previous case managers. In this particular case, she was a mother, home with her young child. She was brutally murdered in her house with her child present in the house.
In the Alcock case, I was really hoping to have that case solved before Donna's mom died.
We have the killer's DNA from the scene. We have it, and it's a solvable case. I'm confident that the person responsible's name is somewhere in the investigative file, and I'm confident that someday it will be solved.
In the OPP, we don't give up on our cases. We don't close our cases if they're not solved. So those cases will always be open.